Well, here's a house that I took a picture of when I was in the Hollywood Hills, and I decided that I'm going to surprise these people by painting their gate with a donut. So I'm going to sort of deck out their driveway here by bringing in the icon of the donut right into the picture here. Now, when I look at this, I want to fit this donut into one of these panels. So obviously I need to change the size a little, but also I need to be able to see how that fits. So one of the first things I'm going to do is actually turn down the opacity on this donut layer. And to do that, I'm actually going to go into the opacity slider in the layers palette right over here. This is much different than the opacity of the paintbrush. So this is opacity of the particular layer that you have activated. So I'm going to turn that opacity down to about 54% here. And I want to put the donut right into this panel. So what I need to do is scale it down. I'm going to scale this image using the free transform tool, which is located under Edit, right down here, free transform. The shortcut is Command T, and I use that quite a bit. You'll notice I get little handles that look quite a bit like the crop tool. In fact, it acts like the crop tool, except it's not cropping. All of these handles will allow me to move the picture, but much like constrained proportion issues, you don't want to stretch your image. So a little trick, and this is something you have to memorize, is if you hold down the Shift key and you go from the corner, you'll see that my proportions are being constrained. So I'm holding down the Shift key and I'm pressing in this anchor point right here. Now I want to line it up. And also, just like the crop tool, I could go to the very edge and rotate just a little. And then I'll continue to shrink it down. And see how I'm able to position this because the opacity is turned down. At this point, I'm going to apply this free transform, and I can either do that by hitting a checkbox at the top, or I like to just hit the Enter or Return key. And you'll notice that the anchor points went away. If you don't get rid of those anchor points, you can't do anything else. You can't move. So now I'm going to zoom way in using the scroll wheel. And a really good tool also to use is holding down the space bar. I'm able to click and push the picture around. So I scrolled in and now I'm holding down the space bar. And now I'm going to apply a layer mask, but in a very different way. Rather than paint this part of the image out, what I'm going to do is go up here to the lasso tool, and there's one called the polygonal lasso tool, which actually lets you click anchor points. So I'm going to click in this corner, and it's a real easy tool to use before we learn to use the pen tool. If you already know the pen tool, you could use that. And then click right here, and can you see that I'm sort of outlining this frame? Click, and I'm not holding down, I'm just doing single clicks. And then another click over here. And then I close the loop, and if you can see, I'm getting a little circle. That means I'm connecting. And now this creates a selection here. If you have a selection in Layer Mask, then when you hit the Layer Mask, it will automatically paint black around the outside. So I'm on the donut layer, and now I'm going to hit Layer Mask, and it automatically painted this mask. So it painted black around everywhere that I didn't have selected. And what it did is masked out the donut. Now I can turn back the opacity to 100. And there's the donut fitting in there perfectly. looking really good with that house. I went ahead and made a couple other donut extractions and one more, and the property value of this house will go way up.